Pete Moore, welcome to the Outperform podcast. How are you?
Scott, great to be here. Thanks for having the opportunity to be on your podcast show, and look forward to talking to you today.
It's awesome having you on. First things first, when you hear the word outperform, what does that mean to you, and how do you define outperforming in your life?
I set pretty high goals for myself personally, so when I can exceed my own expectations, that to me is outperforming. So, if I have my own budget or certain things I want to get done in my life, or, with my personal trainer and he says you can do 10 reps and I do 12, I'm outperforming what someone else thinks or what I think I can achieve. So taking that one next step.
Have you always been wired that way, or is that something that's kind of evolved over time?
That's a great question. I like you used to play sports back in the day. And, I was always the soccer goalie. I was always the guy who played defense. So my goals were not to win the game. My goals were always to help the team not lose. So, when I look at, what my outperform was basically to do my job. And if there were things that I could do that were extraordinary to make that happen, that was important. But I was never the guy that was, the reason why we won, but I was the reason why we didn't lose. So I kind of have taken that ethos of, I'm here as like a trampoline for people. It's not about me. Integrity Squares doesn't have my last name in it for a very purposeful reason, because it's not about me. It's about the team and what, we can do to support others.
Yeah, I like the philosophy. Awesome. So I want to jump into Halo, which is part of how we got connected, why I was interested in having you on the podcast. And for everybody out there watching, listening, Halo stands for Health, Active Lifestyle, and Outdoors. And one of the first things that I noticed when I went on the website, and this is something that I've thought about and I try to do with Outperform the Norm, is I talk about it. Parts of it could be tactical, but it's more of a movement. It's more aspirational instead of tactical. And when I went on the Halo website and I looked at the Halo pledge and I looked at some of the rhetoric behind it, it was very aspirational as far as how we should live our lives. It seemed a lot to be kind of butterfly effect on the positive impact we can make on others. So can you talk to the audience a little bit about what Halo, two-part question, what Halo is and how you created it and kind of got to this point?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give you the personal reasons and also the business reasons. So I was lucky enough to get into Harvard Business School. Graduated there in 1999. Anyone who's been to business school, they somewhat brainwash you to, come up with big ideas and run really hard. And if you fail, worst case is you got a Harvard Business School degree and, you'll pick up the pieces and you'll be okay. So it's go and hit home runs. I went down and I worked for a private equity firm down in Florida as my first job out of business school. At the ripe age of 27, I became a resident of Boca Raton, which most people do not do at the age of 27. I started working at this private equity fund that was a $200 million fund, and it had a mandate to go and buy small businesses and grow them and then sell them. This is kind of the business model. So they owned an aerospace parts company, an agricultural tank business, and a chemical company that made the blue chemicals in the toilets of airplanes. And right when I started working there, they had a letter of intent to buy Gold's Gym International. And being an athlete back in the day, and looking around the room at the partners and the vice presidents and associates at this private equity fund, I quickly realized I was definitely the only guy that owned a tank top, and definitely the only guy who actually had a health club membership. So I kind of drafted myself onto this deal team and haven't left the fitness industry since. So I got enamored with, being able to be in an industry where you can make people happy, you can be yourself. It's not very technical. I'm not the most technical guy. So, doing at one firm I worked at, they wanted me to do water filtration and nanotechnology, investment banking. And if you're not passionate about something like that, it's hard to get get up in the morning. But if you say, hey, I want to go and build, 100 fitness studios or 100 health clubs, I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I should be the guy to help you do that. So I started up a software company that was basically a Salesforce.com for the fitness industry after working at the private equity fund. And then when it was basically a banker, which is kind of a glorified name for a business broker. And I focused only on the health and fitness industry, putting deals together such as Massage Envy, some transactions with LA Fitness, an introduction that led to an investment in Equinox, Crunch Fitness. So I kind of became the banker that you would go to if you were looking at a health club deal. I had worked in the industry and I had some really, good view on what operators were strong, how you think about that business, how you evaluate the business. And then about 10 years ago, I started on my own firm called Integrity Square. So I was just an entrepreneur, just like a lot of the people on your listener base here probably. And I used to live in Union Square, New York. So we'd always say, let's meet in the square. And the word integrity has always been, a very deep word to me, where if you have integrity, that's all that matters. If you don't have it, that's kind of all that matters either. So, we kind of view Integrity Square as if you have integrity, you're allowed in the square. And if you're a client of Integrity Square, you're protected by the square. So when you do financial transactions, it's like playing your first game of chess. There's no way you're going to win unless you have somebody who can actually coach you through that. So we've kind of kept that, like old school type of, sports mentality of, we're going to help people win, or we're going to make sure you don't lose, and that's an important part of our ethos. And I was telling people until about 2018, I would tell people I'm a health and wellness banker. And every time I used the word wellness, I felt like it dropped like a dead mic. And nobody ever comes to you with, I got this awesome wellness idea. It just doesn't fit together. So I Googled the word wellness and found out that there was a guy at the Mayo Clinic back in the 1920s who was a biostatistician. And he was looking at the data saying, oh, everyone's getting sick. We got to come up with the opposite of illness. So we came up with wellness. So basically, if you're not sick, you're okay, which for guys like you and me, and probably most of your listeners, that's not outperforming. That's mediocre. And, staying out of the hospital is not, a goal. That should just be obvious. So I woke up one morning thinking about all these different letters and came up with HALO, Health, Active, Lifestyle, Outdoors. And we were able to trademark it. My partner and I, Dave Gannell, and we trademarked HALO, and we're trying to create the HALO effect. And we're also trying to help these companies that are trying to define themselves in ways that are not really hitting the universe of who their consumer is. So we got people that come in and say, I got a better for you food, or I got a better for you beverage, or I'm a resort company and I'm trying to focus on active lifestyle, or I'm a paddleboard, company. So the question is like, okay, can we take this industry that's like food, beverage, retail, health clubs, fitness centers, and say, hey, you're part of actually this entire universe. Like the whole consumer sector should really be called the HALO sector. So we have an initiative where we're trying to get people to not use the word wellness. It's okay if you do, but over time, we think that investment banks and companies will say, I'm a HALO company. And that HALO pledge is, I'm going to do everything I can to make people healthy and happy. And I am going to eradicate obesity and loneliness and diabetes. Because the only way those things get solved is by people changing their behavior. And I can't stand, I'm very transparent, so I'll just give it to you straight. When someone's like, I'm racing to the cure, well, why don't you just make sure nobody gets the disease so we don't have to spend any money, don't have to do any events to go race for a cure for something that I know how to fix it. Just like live a healthier lifestyle. So that's what we're trying to do.
And I love the fact that you brought up wellness, because I've heard that from you a couple of times. And, my book, Outperform the Norm, is segmented into health, happiness, and high performance. And one of the things I often talk, or I actually mention at the start of the health chapter, is the definition of health is the state of being free from illness or injury. And I start off the chapter just saying, shouldn't we have higher standards than that as far as what it means to outperform or what it means to actually be healthy or be well? We should set our sights higher than that and find a different way to define it. So I appreciate the fact that you brought that up. So just on a big picture kind of scale, why do you think more people don't invest in their health or their wellness and don't take pride in doing the things that they need to do to be able to be their best every single day? Like, why isn't that a bigger part of our lives? And I know that that's a large question to throw out there. I'm curious to hear your perspective.
Well, I mean, if you think about where it begins, it always begins in how you grew up, and what kind of foods you eat as a kid. So when I see like some 10-year-old that's got, type 2 diabetes, that kid did nothing to deserve that except sit at the dinner table and eat what he was able to eat, right? So there's an education issue. And look, I mean, you go back to, you're probably a little bit younger than me, but we didn't know anything about nutrition. I used to like go to play basketball at, 6:30 at night. And what did I eat that day? I eat like a meatball hero sandwich, French fries and like a chocolate milk. That's what like that was like your meal prep, right? And then you look at, what it costs to shop at a Whole Foods and go organic versus, somebody going and picking up a pizza and bringing it home. Kids get conditioned to, eat this junk food. And, that's part of the problem. And then I think our society has allowed people to have the freedom to hurt themselves. Like if you think about this, like I read this article the other day that really pissed me off. It talked about casual dining restaurants making the booths bigger so they can accommodate larger sized people. They give you like a seatbelt extender. Granted, there are people that have thyroid issues and there are people that, have weight problems and are taking medication. So there are people that have that and there's nothing you can do about it. But there are people, as a choice, on average have another 25 to 40 pounds that they're, walking around with. And they're just a time bomb on themselves. And once you get to that extreme where you look in the mirror and you don't like the way you look, I think it psychologically takes energy out of you. And I think it's hard for you to physically and mentally outperform because you've destroyed like your engine. Like your body's, when someone's like, what should I eat? I'm like, well, think of your food as fuel, right? Your body's a machine. So if you're going to put, stuff in it that what it does to you, which is basically, everyone's like, oh, I'm fat. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're storing energy, right? If you just get the energy out of your body that you're storing, you got to be, you got to lose weight. Like that's how it works. So yeah, that's part of the answer. So I think it's discipline, it's habit. And it's also like society saying, you know what, it's okay if you want to, I'll make the seats bigger for you and I'll give you a seatbelt extender. What if we don't do that?
I 100% agree. Yeah,
But that's not politically correct right now. But hey, look, we got a healthcare issue here, and all these medications that they put on cable TV, with all these names like Trulicity or I don't even know, but it's like 30 seconds of like what it does for you, and then 30 seconds of the side effects. One, I'd rather just have whatever my illness is right now versus the side effects. But I would say to someone like, I would actually have like a government mandate. You're not allowed to take that drug unless you do a 10-week boot camp first. And then you could qualify. Because most of these people, they go to the gym and they eat better, they don't never have to take those drugs.
Yeah. God, if only we could do that. I'm totally seeing eye to eye with you. So I want to actually pivot this to, we have health problem. Obviously, we have a healthcare problem. Let's pivot it to the corporate sector. And, when I look at companies and especially the ones that I speak to, you're the human capital part of it. And we all know that employees, if they're healthy and if, for lack of a better term, we're going to call it employee wellness, if they would be healthy and well, they're going to be more productive. They're going to have less sick days. They're going to be better with their teammates. There's just so much different data out there that shows that the best companies are the ones that have healthier people. So when you look at especially the corporate sector, what are some of the biggest, I guess, mistakes or opportunities for change that you see in companies, and what should they be doing differently to be able to invest in their people to have better health and better wellness?
Yeah, I think a lot of corporations are kind of put a Band-Aid on corporate wellness or fitness related programs by saying like, hey, you could go onto our corporate intranet. We've got these discounts and, we'll let you use your flexible spending account. But let's say you thought of your company and your people as players on a professional team. Every professional team has a strength and conditioning coach. Why doesn't a corporation? Why isn't there a head of player personnel, to make sure that people, if they have an issue, like it's not, should I have to go to HR and talk to someone that I've never met? Or is there someone that's like, I'm human capital, right? So any kind of sporting team views, their players as assets, and I got to take care of my assets. And I think companies are starting to get it, but, if you don't pay for your employees, health club membership, just at a basic level, $40 to $60 a month, or give somebody like, hey, look, here's a credit card. You can only use it for fitness related activities. It's got $300 a month max on it. Like those are simple things that, the breadth of people that would take advantage of that, would be, I think you'd have a cultural shift if people were doing that. And then you'd have some peer pressure to say, hey, Scott, what'd you do this week? How much money you got left on your account? Like, come and do the Soul Cycle class with me, or let's try out CrossFit, or, come do this Ninja Nation, obstacle course with me. So you almost like turn into, like an entertainment tool and also like a bonding tool within your corporation. Because, once somebody goes and goes to the doctor or goes to the hospital one time, it's 3x what you just paid for, preventative healthcare.
Yeah, I sometimes call it prehab instead of rehab.
Yeah, exactly.
Is a good way to look at it. So, I mean, for the people that might say, because I think you and I, and probably a lot of people listening to this, actually intuitively, this makes sense. We know that we should be doing this, but if you're speaking to someone about it, and if they're saying, well, if I'm going to pay for my employees' healthcare or health and fitness membership for 40, 60 bucks a month, well, show me the ROI on that. What's the ROI going to be? What do you say to someone like that?
There's definitely groups out there that are able to show the ROI now to the CFO and, say, here's how much we're going to bring your healthcare costs down by. But, I think in this day and age, it shouldn't be something I have to put into an Excel spreadsheet. You as like the head of HR should just think about yourself and your friends and what are they doing to optimize themselves, and how could we be a part of that journey? So that's been always the stumbling block. That's why the sales cycle to sell a corporate wellness, account has been, years. And when companies, downsize, they start cutting their corporate wellness budgets. That's the last thing you should cut. So, I think it's conversations like this, and it's, people that haven't gone to the doctor. I mean, when was the last time, not putting you on the spot, but I mean, I've been to a doctor for anything that, affected me 6 years. I work out 5 times a week, and that's my hospital. That fitness center, that boutique studio is, part of it's kind of like, it's like my religious organization that I belong to, so it's where I kind of meditate as well and come up with ideas. So, I think it's conversations like this where it just become the norm, and not necessarily in the spreadsheet, but people are still looking for those numbers. So I agree with you. It's a hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely with you. I can't tell you last time I went to the doctor. Like, I sometimes wonder why I even have insurance, because I never go. And I understand you need it, but it's not the type of thing that I ever use. Other than some of the things we've talked about, are there any other glaring gaps that you see maybe on the corporate wellness side of things, or as far as just really getting people to buy into health, active lifestyle, outdoors in a bigger way with where we are either as a society or within companies?
Yeah, look, I mean, I still go to, some of these, well, before COVID, you'd go to some offices and you'd still see their, spread of snacks out there. And, I like an M&M just as everybody else does. But, the one person I'd like to go after, if you know who this person is the one that does the serving sizes. They're like a Ben and Jerry's pint of ice cream is not a 4 serving size. That's a 1, right? So let's just be honest about it. Or somebody goes into an airport and they think they're eating healthy and they go get a trail mix. They don't realize that that's 9 servings, of trail mix. So it's like, hey, you think you're eating healthy? You just consume 90 grams of sugar, divided by 4. That's 18 teaspoons of sugar they just put in your body, and now you're going on sitting on a flight. So, I think companies need to, get rid of all these snacks that have all this sugar in it. Reward people. Like when you bring in a company event, don't bring in pizza. Bring in, healthy wraps. There's certain things that companies still. It's not part of the holistic mission. It's like, hey, we give you this corporate wellness program, or we'll have somebody come in and everyone's going to get a back massage every, Thursday for 20 minutes. And it's almost like a box that they check, but it's got to be the whole company. And everything you do, has got to be part of, does that fit with our culture and our physical and mental mission? I don't think people are there yet, but they'll get there. But it's going to take people like us to evangelize it, because it's not obvious to everyone.
Yeah, and you have such a unique skill set between being able to understand, obviously, the financial and business aspects of just running a business, but you also get the fitness part of it as well. So when you look into the future of, I understand we're in COVID times, lots of uncertainty going on right now, but when you look into the future as far as where you would like Halo to be and the impact and the dent you would like to make in the universe, where do you see that being in maybe 1, 3, 5 years? And what do you see the landscape of Halo looking like?
Yeah. So, as I told you before, when we started out, I was the soccer goalie back in the day. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the right companies and the right entrepreneurs are able to get access to capital so they can accomplish the Halo goals. So I know I can't do this myself. You can't do it on your own. But companies that have missions and initiatives and products and services that can change the world have to get funding, because nothing happens without money. And the only way you can get really smart people to work in any industry is you have to have a base salary that allows them to go and give up their job at the consulting firm or, the bank. You got so many people that come to us and say, oh, I'd love to work in the fitness industry. I can't afford it. There's not enough, C-level positions, or, the only way those positions were formed was by private capital coming in, or a company and an entrepreneur, betting the farm on, a Cliff Bar or, a Balance Bar, and that turned into something big, or, vitamin water, like Fiji water. They've got Fiji waters. I mean, it's water from Fiji in a bottle, right? They've got people that make 6 figures there, that used to work in consulting or worked in some other corporate job. And now they think that, they're helping people, not drink a can of Coke, that's 66 grams of sugar. So our goal is to give people the ability to say, hey, I'm not just like this specialty drink that's going into fitness boutiques. I'm part of the Halo movement. And over it's not going to happen in 1 year, but over a 3 to 5 year period, I want these investment banks that are covering Peloton and Weight Watchers and Planet Fitness, all those equity analysts that are basically like tastemakers, if you will, for buying stocks and people buying stocks, to say hey, we cover the Halo sector. We're not like specialty retail. We're not like active lifestyle. I'm not a wellness analyst, because Halo is everything. It's what I put in my body. It's how I live my life. It's where I work out. It's the product and services I consume. So my goal is to basically be known that hey, I was like Captain Halo. That's my goal.
So for the entrepreneurs, for the companies out there that want to take the Halo pledge, that want to go on that journey with you, as we start to wind down this podcast, where would you like people to go to be able to connect with you, find out more about what it is that you do, direct them somewhere?
Yeah, so the first place to go would be to just go to halotalks.com, which is our B2B podcast channel. So we've got over 200 entrepreneurs and evangelists in the industry and guys like yourself that have come on and we want people to just understand how we think. And then there's a link to the Halo Pledge. We just did a press release to get window peels that say Halo certified. So all these companies, whether they are, there you go, whether these companies are, food companies or spas or fitness centers, to say, look, we care about, your health and safety, and, we're spraying down the equipment, and, we're here to make you better. And go back to your point, you can't outperform unless you take care of yourself. This machine, I mean, the human, when someone's like, what's the best technology you've ever seen? I'm like, the human body is like the most sophisticated machine you're ever going to find, right? So why would you destroy it, and not optimize what you could do with it? So, in the Halo sector, there are companies that are changing the world, location by location. So think about a Planet Fitness. You and I would probably say, oh, that's not a place that we would work out, but people are deciding whether they're going to sit on their couch or they're going to pay $15 and give it a shot. Let me see if I can get into this industry, and with no judgments. And then you got companies that are coming up with nootropics, and they're coming up with brain optimization and weight loss products and home fitness equipment. So I want all those companies to basically have a sector that they could say that they're a part of that's much bigger than just their product or service. And anybody who wants to come into this industry, I want to make sure that there are enough jobs where we don't have to say no. There's no place for you because we can't pay you. So capital brings jobs. Entrepreneurs come up with ideas. Those ideas come and turn into big companies, and that's the way you change the world. In a capitalist society, it's got to be the companies that drive it.
Yeah. Awesome. So again, to everybody watching, listening, halotalks.com. I will also put a link to that in the show notes of this episode. Pete, any other parting shots, words of wisdom you would like to leave with the audience before we sign off?
The only thing I would say is, you have the power to change yourself, and that is a contagious power. So whatever you do, our offices used to be us, huddling over the water cooler and talking about, hey, what movie did you go to, or what, what was your Las Vegas trip? Now everyone's talking about, hey, what kind of workout are you doing, or what do you think of this new fitness studio, or I'm using this new fitness app. So everything's kind of moving into about bettering yourself, and get involved, even if it's just starting out. It's never too late to join the Halo sector, as we say.
That's the truth. Pete, on behalf of the Outperforming audience, we want to thank you very much for your time and your words of wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate your work too. Look forward to meeting you in person once we get a vaccine or something. All right, buddy.
Hey, God willing, we will be able to make that happen. So to everyone out there, thanks for listening, watching, and as always, wish you the best of health, happiness, high performance. Have a great day.
Go Halo. Later, bro.